Welcome to episode 17 of Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mr. C.H. Siddons.
Hi.
Good to see you, buddy.
It's so good to be here.
Wow.
It is. It's a pleasure.
It's so weird
It's like the first time we're doing this.
I know. It's like the 100 millionth time it feels like this year. It's been great.
It has.
And we are at episode 17.
That's right.
And I have no idea how many episodes we have left. Mr. Krabs.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Welcome.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's great. It's
good.
Great to be here.
We did get some show feedback about
Okay.
episode numbers.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Do you want to save that for show feedback?
Sure,
or-
I'll save it because I have all the show feedback.
You pulled it up?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay,
I have it ready.
It's about freaking
Good.
time.
I have it ready.
All
That's
right.
good.
Twitter handles. You can find me at RW Dodd, at CH Siddons, and at Peter Crable. We have a big show tonight, along with 2 interview segments that are coming out.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to get that right, Mr. Crable.
I know you said it wonderfully.
They are interviews. We have...
We took one interview and we split it up into 14 segments.
Okay, we are truly big time because we have Dr. Carol Ann Tomlinson from the University of Virginia, thinker, writer on all things instruction, mostly focused on differentiation, has done a great interview with Ed's Not Dead. It will be released in 2 installments this coming week. Mr. Krabs, anything you want to say about that? When's it going to drop?
Don't know. Whenever we release
Whenever
it. But,
we want.
Yes. But the first section,
We have themes, right?
with themes, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It was a think piece.
That was yours.
Yeah. First section will be kind of big ideas about differentiation. And then the second piece is a little bit more classroom teacher focused, implementation, stuff like that.
Good.
And a big thanks for Carol Ann Tomlinson to spend her evening with us.
Yep.
I think she just wanted me to stop emailing her.
She basically said that.
I went,
Yeah.
I went back in the email, and I think the first email was like September or October. I mean, it was 6 months ago.
She's busy. She's busy.
Yeah, oh,
she doesn't
yeah,
have time
yeah.
for peons like me.
No, but she ended up coming on the show, and shout out to you, Mr. Sids, for getting her on.
Well,
your
she's
persistence.
very gracious the whole time. She's like, "Well, I was away," or she was always in contact. So
So you this year in our first season of Ed's Not Dead, you booked Carol Ann Tomlinson, Zaretta Hammond,
That's right.
and Rick Wormley.
Rick Wormley,
That is quite the
and
try.
Curtis Linton.
And Curtis Linton.
Yep.
Wow, Mr. Sids.
Dude, we had a lot of interviews.
Me and Crable have done nothing.
Can I
I booked Troy Body, and I love him. He was awesome.
so good.
Hey man, I plug these microphones into the computer
That's right.
every 2 weeks.
There's a lot of plugging.
And he does the music, which a lot of the audience doesn't like.
That is wrong. One
I'm
person.
Just kidding. I know. That was... Anyway, we have a big show tonight too. We are going to mostly focus on some creative ways to reorganize secondary schools, restructuring them, which is a reform element of education that
Underutilized.
Yeah, underutilized and comes into vogue, and then everybody talks about doing it, like the interdisciplinary team movement in middle schools in the 80s and 90s, and a lot of schools did it, but hardly any schools do it anymore. But we're going to find out how you're pioneering some reorganization in middle school, Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, man.
We're going to solve it. All the problems.
Yeah, and Mr. Siddons taught in a semi-departmentalized setting in 6th grade in middle school,
right.
and got some killer student outcomes.
3 years.
Was it that long?
It was.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
awesome.
Yep.
It's the best 3 years of my teaching career so far.
That's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to talk about that, but before we do that, we need show feedback. Sing it, Mr. Sids.
Show feedback. We have show feedback for you. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, before that, do you want to talk about the big
Nope.
iMac monitor that's
yeah.
that's now in the man cave, and I have no idea how it got here and what its role is? Are we recording on this now?
We are. My MacBook is on the way out. Anyway, so show feedback. We have one show feedback piece that I want to talk to you about, and it's about episode numbers. It's a close friend of mine, Elisa.
Because those are the only people that still listen to
That's right.
the show. So, okay,
Well, she said that she doesn't respond to feedback. She doesn't give us feedback online.
Right.
But she gave it all to me today, specifically about episode numbers. She's like, I don't understand. Why do you have to end episodes for a season on an odd number? Why can't you stop it on an even number, like 20? I said, I know. It was an echo chamber.
Yeah.
I know.
Or 18, but you know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So she loves the show and she spreads the word.
Thank you.
And anyway, so we got some feedback from Miss Pam Naring. You all know Pam.
Wonderful educator.
Big fan.
Yep, she's awesome. She teaches skillful teacher courses, which is a great course.
Expert teacher in the classroom and teacher of adults.
Yes.
Teacher of teachers.
Yep. She said that I'm enjoying your podcast so much that she replaced us when she was listening to, I don't even know what it is, WMZQ. What is that?
That's a country station
country
that's been
station.
around forever.
WE.
She replaced us with them or replaced them with us?
Sorry. She replaced them
Got it.
with us.
Got it.
Yes.
Good.
So she's listening to us now, which we're better.
Pam's from Montana, so I'm not surprised she was listening
That's-
to WNCQ.
that's right.
Yeah.
She said you're all knowledgeable, well-read, and witty.
Oh, that's so good.
She doesn't know us very well, does she?
But she gave you a compliment, and I don't think she didn't give...
I'm going to get to my compliment in a little bit.
Okay.
I'm quite impressed with your lineup of guests on the show and the great questions you are asking. So we appreciate that feedback, Pam, especially when it talks about me. So episode 16, she said, kudos to me, Casey, for making the connection between teacher pay and the gender pay gap.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, actually, my dear wife finally listened to an episode after 10 episodes off. But she said she actually made a point to say that was an excellent point by you, Casey, to say that,
job, Case.
looking at the pay gap in education is no coincidence. It's also a field dominantly led by women.
Yeah, well, having
And
your
that
wife
had never crossed my mind.
to give me praise.
High praise.
You get praise all the time.
I'm a middle child. Yeah. But that's good. From Pam and your wife, I'm set.
Tell me more
That's
about
awesome.
myself.
Yeah.
Well, this is a three-dude show, and you do tend to make more points like that than me and Mr. Craig will do. You're a little more perceptive that way.
I'm the emotional one.
Yeah, okay. You are.
She also said teachers do not become educators for the money. On the other hand, they haven't taken on the vow of poverty.
Exactly.
Also true. She said if education doesn't work out for the three of you, I'm sure Carol Ann Tomlinson will invite you to go on the road with her to sing her theme song.
Oh, that was very timely, too. What's the Carol Ann Tomlinson theme song?
I have no idea.
Let's go back and listen to it.
We need to find that out.
Okay.
It's ridiculous, whatever it is.
I want to know.
Speaking of going on the road, Robbie, do you want to break some news? Beep, boop, bop, beep, boop, boop,
Absolutely.
boop.
Thanks to Pam for the show feedback. We are going on tour. Ed's
Yeah.
Not Dead. We are going
East Coast,
Mid-Atlantic. We're officially leaving the Dodd Man Cave, which we've never been out of before.
For good reason.
And on April 21st, we are going to be at James Hubert Blake High School in the Montgomery County Public Schools. We will be interviewing guests and a part of the agenda at the Maryland PTA Diversity Conference. Friend of the show and social justice leader Francis Frost has asked Ed's Not Dead to attend and to be a part of the conference. It's an important event in the PTA calendar for the school year.
Yeah.
For the whole state of Maryland.
Yep, for the whole state of Maryland. Yep.
Crazy.
Yep, and we are going to be there.
Yeah.
And we're going to be interviewing all kinds of luminaries and big thinkers about diversity and how to improve public education. The diversity conference mostly focuses on the commitment to make PTAs more inclusive and representative of the diversity that we have in our nation and our schools. So we will be at James Hubert Blake on the 21st, interviewing people. We have no idea what the setup will be. And
We're winging it.
Yeah.
we're winging
It's
it.
gonna be winging
We're
it.
going to be in
It's gonna be
we're going to
good.
be in a
It's gonna be
classroom at a table with a bunch of mics, right? And
I'm trying to get us in the cafeteria.
Yeah, man, we're gonna be
We're going to be like the takeout,
Yeah.
like Major Garrett.
we're just gonna start grabbing people and be like, "Come here, ask a question."
yeah, it'll be like Radio Road's Super
yeah,
Bowl.
yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we already know that we have Delegate Morales, right?
That's right.
On the show. She's
Yep.
we're going to be interviewing.
We got to catch her early. though.
Maryland State
Yeah,
delegate.
That's right.
Yeah, Maryland State Delegate. Okay, so that's coming up. The Maryland PTA Diversity Conference. Ed's Not Dead will be there.
Yeah.
All right, other announcements for the good of the order for Ed's Not Dead.
Negative.
Nope.
Anything on Twitter about us lately? Have you started any Twitter wars or anything, Mr. Sids?
No, I've been pretty tame.
Yeah, he's been.
Okay. He's been a low profile.
Yeah, like this past week, I was like, all right, that's cool. I mean, Casey doesn't want to do his job. That's fine.
You got one job.
I know he's got
You
a
have one job.
social media job. All right, let's get into restructuring secondary schools. So we thought tonight we'd just have a conversation about this. and not get all wonky with too much research.
Well, can we start actually with
I love it. I love it when I start to do a lead in and then
I know
get
you
interrupted
do.
right
I know.
away. It's fine. I'm good with it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you can start your lead in. Sorry.
Well, when we say restructuring, secondary schools and elementary schools are set up in specific ways. Elementary schools over many, many decades have largely been self-contained classroom environments where kids receive instruction in multiple subjects from one teacher. That's painting with a broad brush, but that's usually how the elementary environment works, right? We all went through an elementary school like that pretty much, right?
Yep.
So then in education, what we experience, we tend to perpetuate with the kids that are in the future. Secondary school is very different, right, Mr. Siddons?
That's right.
Departmentalization becomes king, as does content. Departmentalization is a way to structure the school to deliver specialized content, and teachers become specialists in content. Mr. Siddons, you were a social studies teacher.
That's right. It's the best subject.
Mr. Crable, you taught lots of different stuff.
That's right.
Astronomy.
He wrote astronomy curriculum, taught his own astronomy class. Yeah. So the secondary environment does not change much. You have 7-period days or block schedules, and kids receive instruction from specialized teachers. We wanted to talk tonight about how we could blow up the organizational structure to group kids and group teachers differently.
Yeah.
What kind of structures happened in the past that were not successful? What are some examples? The open school would be one, right?
Yeah.
That was a movement.
Yep.
What other ones?
I would say that interdisciplinary teams at the middle school level, even at the junior high school level, were somewhat of a fad. They caught on across the country, but then
They require a lot of upkeep. Times
changed.
Yeah.
Well, and they run completely counter, really, to the norms of secondary education, which is content is king,
Right.
Versus kids are king. And I don't say that in an insulting way, but teachers really identify themselves as teachers of content.
Yeah, they go to school for bachelor in biology.
Right. You need a specialty to
Right.
teach
Yep.
whatever you teach. You don't need to be an educator. You need a specialty to teach.
Right.
that.
Yeah. And if you ever read any of Larry Cuban's work, he'll say that in the mid-20th century, the high school was kind of the crown jewel of American public education. And high school teachers are specialized. High school teachers at one time made more money than elementary school teachers.
High school teachers?
Absolutely, yeah. High school principals made more money than elementary school principals still do.
Yeah.
In most places. So that kind of specialized mentality is a very secondary thing.
And I think to be honest, part of it is probably true. I mean, when you think about an AP physics course, or you
calculus.
think about, some of those, like, they are very specialized courses and classes that need a very specialized knowledge base. So I just wonder if it all trickled down from there. But I mean, for me personally, as someone who has happened to have taught a lot of different subjects, in the sort of like 6 to 9 range, I always felt like you would just pick it up. You could learn it. You know more than a 12-year-old or 13-year-old.
Right.
So learn it and then teach it to them. And it never seemed really necessary to me, I guess, to have to know so much, like, about any particular subject.
Right.
I taught 7th grade social studies, and one of the units was on, like, medieval ancient Africa. You think that was, like, ever a unit that I took in college?
Right.
No. So I learned about it and then I taught it.
And in 7th grade social studies, you taught 5 classes to roughly 150 kids.
Correct.
Is that the ideal way to group kids in education so that you get to know what their needs are and who they are?
It's efficient.
It's efficient, right? It's an efficient delivery system.
Yeah. Keeps your costs down.
Right. Outcomes. Does it produce good outcomes? Do kids like it? Do teachers think they like it?
I think teachers,
Yeah.
like
Because that's what they're doing.
Right.
It's what they know.
And so, not to spill the beans, but in our interview
Spill the beans.
with Carol Ann Tomlinson, I mean, she talks about at some point we switched from teaching kids to teaching content, and that became the focus. So I think that bears out in terms of a lot of, and again, we're going to do a lot of broad brushes here. But
That's my job.
I know. I lost my train of thought. Oh, that at some point we became specialists in content.
I like this look on his face.
And not in people. But additionally, Robbie, to your point, in terms of like what does it accomplish in terms of outcome, the way I look at it, and this could be totally wrong, but how we have things set up now, it has a ceiling. And I'm just making up arbitrary numbers, but if 100 is like perfection, then our ceiling now is like 80. And in a perfect environment with a really excellent teacher and kind of like everything hitting right on every day,
Right.
like we can hit an 80.
Yep.
And that's really good.
Yeah.
But in my mind, taking a look at some of these structures, and we can get into what Project Success is, and the
Project 7.
the reforming of how schools are structured. I think you get a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
You can get up towards 100. You can get up towards much better student outcomes, literally for everyone.
It is a marginal tweak that could have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so let's just talk about it. I mean, Casey, do you want to give the overview, since you taught it, of Project Success, of kind of what it looked like just in 30 seconds or less?
He's making all kinds of faces.
Well, I think
It's one of the most innovative programs ever created.
right.
Come on,
That's right.
plug it,
That's right.
Sid. Let's go.
You should write a doctorate on it.
I know. A doctorate.
You should write a dissertation on it.
I'm going to write my doctorate.
It's getting late. It's getting late. No, it comes down to when it was offered to me.
What
the
is
initial idea, Project Success, it's interdisciplinary learning environment where teachers teach one group of kids every day, same group, where they teach them 4 subjects: social studies, English, science, and digital literacy in our situation. But when it was proposed to me, I was at a point where I keenly understood that the current model of the departmentalization was not working. So I wanted to do something different. And I don't think I realized what I was getting into when it was proposed.
It was hard.
I distinctly remember just a very troublesome first couple of weeks, just because it was just so much to wrap your mind around. But we were developing a curriculum from scratch.
How much anxiety did you have in the early days?
It was... I don't get anxious, but that was a point where I was like, oh, this might be close to a breakdown.
Did it make your hair fall out?
No, that was before that. No, but I also had staff development teacher Kelly Phillips, who was very instrumental in just kind of being supportive and
genius.
Very just in terms of having an answer for. Well, I don't even know where to start with this when you're developing a curriculum, which I had never had any sense of how to do it. And then I had a great coworker in Ginger Berry, who is also on Twitter, and she kind of helped me figure out no, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so uptight about everything, which I am, but it helped me kind of take a step back and focus on the kids and not the content that we had to learn as teachers.
And it was born out of a discussion that Kelly and I had, where we were lamenting really one thing, going back to Carol Ann Tomlinson, that we didn't see differentiation in the secondary classroom. And the reason why we didn't think we were seeing it was because the teachers had too many kids and they didn't have enough time with those kids.
Right.
And so the change of structure of Project Success, the teacher had one intact group of kids for half of every school day.
Right.
And it forced you closer to the kids as a teacher, right?
Yep.
And it also gave you a tremendous amount of autonomy to wrestle with the curriculum and differentiating in that long block of time, which elementary teachers do every day.
Yeah.
And secondary teachers don't, because of this 47-minute structure that is like a factory, for lack of a better term.
And you have, as a teacher, you have to make the decision in that sense, the traditional sense, that you have to make a decision to focus. I don't think it's an either or, but for a lot of teachers it is. Do I focus on content and the curriculum, or am I going to focus on relationships?
Mm-hmm.
And they might do a little bit of the dabbling in the relationships in the beginning of the school year with icebreakers and whatever.
Let's do a glyph.
Let's
What we
get to know
did
each
this
other.
summer.
What did you do this summer? And it's very surface level, and then they don't do it again.
Right.
Or by and large, they don't do it again. It's not their fault necessarily, but there's all these pressures coming about. You have to finish by this date, and you have to get through a certain amount of content, and you have to teach Africa in 9 weeks.
Yeah.
But for us, and I'm so glad that no one really walked in while I was trying to teach physics, introductory physics to sixth graders, because that was.
I had total faith in you as a principal.
I thank God no one ever walked in, because there were some days where I was like, I need to read up on this again, because let me call my brother, and he couldn't explain it to me either.
The
So.
kids probably helped you out sometimes.
Oh yeah, they asked me a question. I'd be like, "So, what do you think? What do you think the answer is?" They moved the physics unit to 8th grade after that year. So then we started working with stuff that was more environmental science and things that I found to be much more interesting as a person. And it really took off that second and third year for me, because I just felt more comfortable. And I knew how powerful, in spite of the challenges, how powerful it was, because the kids were just treating each other differently and me differently. Not obviously it wasn't. We had our troubles.
Social network.
It was a social network. They treat
network.
each other
right
so much different than I had ever experienced in the previous 5 or 6 years of teaching.
And that's
grade.
what the research on Project Success shows, that kids by the end of 6th grade in Project Success valued their peers, interacting with their peers significantly more than kids that are in departmentalized settings, because most often, and you have a 7-period day where you work, right, Mr. Krabs?
Yes.
The kids likely are to experience disparate peer groups
Very.
in every class.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, you've implemented Project Success, and now you're experimenting in grade 7 and 8.
That's right.
Project 7 with doing some interdisciplinary teaming.
Yes. So we obviously took the idea of Project Success and ran with it, and it worked tremendously last year and this year, and we're expanding it next year. So we said, all right, what are the lessons that we can take from 6th grade and start implementing it in 7th grade? Because why? We have a great thing. Why just let it linger in one grade? So we developed Project 7, and originally it was conceived, it was math and science would be taught together, and English and social studies would be taught together. So we found someone to teach math and science, and this teacher has 2 cohorts of kids for 2 classes each. So he has one cohort of kids for math and science and another cohort of kids for math and science as well. And what we did was we had a pot of kids who would be taking algebra in 7th grade, and we had another pot of kids who, on the track that they were on for math, would not be taking algebra in 7th grade. We took half from the algebra track, we took half from the non-algebra track, and we smashed them together and we put them all in algebra. So on paper, you technically have half the kids in any given class are, quote, not ready for algebra.
Right.
Because they didn't take the prerequisite, the previous year's course.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Really?
So we've had just tremendous success with these students in terms of all of them getting the content, doing well. I mean, pick a measure, pick a map M, pick a progress check, pick a common task, whatever your system is, kids are doing great. And it's all those things that you said before. It's the kids, when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's not the teacher being like,
oh, they check each other.
They check each other,
Yep.
doing this, doing that.
They help each other.
Hey man, you have a D right now. You have a C right now. You need to do the work that you need to do.
Right.
They're
more willing to take risks because they know their classmates.
Yes.
They're not going to be ridiculed.
Right. And you can say something like that to someone in middle school, where being called out, being made to stand out is the worst thing in the history of mankind.
Right.
Because part of it is because you're floating around, and then this stain attaches to you of, we're in this Vine era of like, you got served or whatever, right?
Right.
But when you see the same people again and then again and again and then again and again, just multiplied out, for whatever reason, that stigma goes away. So, that's worked really well. We're expanding that to another teacher next year, and then we're going to try the English social studies cohort as well. And what I really want to emphasize in this too is that it's not, because part of it is all the interdisciplinary connections that the teacher can make. Look, part of it is definitely that, but I don't want to oversell the importance of the interdisciplinary curriculum
Right.
as put together by the teacher, because I think that's part of it, but I think the social dynamics and interactions are actually the larger factor at play that breeds success.
And if you what do kids want when they hit at any age, but especially at middle school? They're looking to connect with themselves. They're looking to connect with others. They're looking to connect with their parents, their outside world. And Project Success allows kids to do that. It provides a facility for them to do it because they're spending so much time with each other, and they're forced, as a teacher, you're forced to find ways to resolve conflict. You're kind of like a family, and you have to troubleshoot things as you go. We had rough spots, but we were able to figure them out in a way that didn't end with an arbitrary bell, at the end of a 88-minute period. And I wanted to bring up one other thing. There was a research that just came out. It's not very surprising, but it said that it takes about 200 hours to form a best friend.
Yeah.
And I mean, that it obviously makes sense. You need to spend more time with someone, but when you spend so much time with someone in a structured classroom or a structured environment, in a learning environment that's safe,
right?
All the brain research that you can learn about will tell you that if you're safe and you feel that you have connections with someone else, you're going to learn more and you're going to do better.
And there's significant research out there that shows that after the structural school transition from grade 5 to grade 6, from elementary to middle school, kids have less quality friendships.
Because they're in different classes,
correct.
And they're starting to get tracked.
Right.
And the relationships aren't being fostered.
All right. So speaking of that, last question. One of the things that came out of the research on Project Success was a stark difference between Project Success and departmentalization, was that Project Success kids perceive their teachers to be much less performance-oriented, that they perceive their teachers to be much more equitable and less concerned with grading and less focused or treating the smart kids, quote unquote, smart kids, better than kids that struggle. In both of your experience, teaching in it, implementing it, why would there be this difference in approaches to grading?
I'll go. And I think it's again,
because this is a teacher thing,
right? But I would say it's like it's still a structure thing for me though, because what do teachers have when you have 150 kids, 130 kids? What do you have to connect with kids? Right. How are you what are you talking to them about? Right. How are your conversations?
Talking to them about grades.
Yeah, you're talking about grades. Yeah. You're talking about this assignment.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to do it. And
homework tonight.
You got to do homework
tomorrow.
Tonight.
First thing we're going to check.
And 5 kids in this class, 5 kids in that class, 3 kids in that class. It's the economies of scale on it is
Mr. Krabs.
All of a sudden, everything that happens in one class is multiplied times however many classes you teach.
Right.
And that was one of the points I was going to make about Project Success before. Is like I thought I was a pretty good teacher, but I can't sit here and honestly tell you that in every one of my classes, every kid was like engaged and that was totally there and interested. Mm-hmm. And let's say it was 2 kids here, or 3 kids there, multiplied out times a school, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I would like to say that the structure itself, where you're planning with someone and you have a lot of freedom, the standard-based grading stuff that came out of Project Success came up because Ginger Barry was like, let's try this. This is cool. Mm-hmm. That wasn't how it was designed. Mm-hmm. It was more of like, oh, this is what we've been reading about. Let's try it out. Mm-hmm. And we started putting it into English and putting it into social studies. And how can we... She actually went through the indicators for the curriculum that we use, and she turned them into statements for standard-based grading purposes. She turned them, every single one, and had a comprehensive list. And that's what we pulled from. And it turned into kids talking about not the assignment, but about the skill. I had a kid come up to me.
And demonstrating mastery of it.
And I had,
versus
for the first time ever,
a grade.
Yeah, and he said, I need to work on my claim writing because we had done a bunch of claims and evidence. I was like, wait, what? I need to work on my claims because look at my grades on my claims. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen. All right, let's do it.
And along the same lines, one last thing before we go to break here is success breeds success.
Yep.
And to get anybody to try it, and wherever you do, it takes a leap of faith. Because what are you trying to sell me here?
You haven't even read my dissertation yet, and that's my closing. The leap of faith.
So it requires a leap of faith, and so kudos to all the teachers that I've worked with that have done it. For one, doing it, but then one little, pebble, or I don't know what analogy I'm trying to use here. Once they start going, whoa, and then they talk about it to their colleagues,
it's a movement.
People go, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And not one of them has said, yeah, man, it's easy.
Yeah.
They say, no, it's actually hard, but it's more satisfying. I get better results. I'm more challenged, but I'm more satisfied.
Right. It's like the kid in the hard teacher's class that the teacher has really good relationships with them, and they say that's a really hard teacher, but I like it. Mm-hmm. And that has been the experience. In Project Success, we've had English teachers. One of the pioneers of Project Success, Ginger Berry, was a math teacher, and then she betrayed us and became a math teacher again. Just kidding. We love you, Miss Berry. But anyway, so we're going to revisit restructuring on our next restructuring topic. I'd like to jump up to 9th grade and talk about what restructuring at the high school level looks like.
Let's do it.
Are you down with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, folks, don't go away. When we come back, Mr. Siddons has one of his dreaded quiz shows. Thank you. Welcome back to Ed's Not Dead. What's up, boys?
Hey, Ed is not dead.
All right, this is the final segment of the show, what you've all been waiting for, a classic C.H. Siddons
quiz show.
The quiz show.
Okay, come on, man. What do you got tonight? And by the way, I usually Crable probably has a 20-point IQ.
Because you lose attention.
But I usually win. I get lucky. So come on.
There's no multiple choice.
I do not lose attention coming from the person who never has the show feedback.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what was the first public school opened in the United States? It opened in 1635.
Like, what was the name of it? Or where was it?
I'll accept either.
Massachusetts.
Okay, you said Massachusetts. And anything else?
It was called the Common School.
Okay.
Roanoke, Virginia.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Darn. Actually, it was called the Boston Latin School.
Oh, yeah. And it's in Boston.
It remains the nation's oldest public school.
And there's Boston English, too, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So next one is a little more challenging.
1-0.
Early public schools in the United States did not focus on academics like math or reading. What were 3 of the major things that they focused on? Choose like 1 or 2 if you'd like.
Surveying.
Surveying.
Astronomy.
Okay.
And farming.
Okay.
I would say law.
Oh, that's a good one too. Damn, I'm jealous.
I was like, you said no math, but I'm still going to go with like shopkeeping or accounting or something like that.
Oh.
Business math.
And something to do with trade, like shipping.
I'm feeling nervous.
Man, you got really specific. They taught the virtues of family, religion, and community.
Okay, we didn't get any of that.
That was.
I tried to throw you a bone.
We went straight for that. Yeah. Those are good ones too.
Yeah,
I mean,
those are like values.
That's right. We need to get back to value schooling.
Value-based education,
value and geography,
prayer and school,
and spelling.
Do you know that my 90-year-old dad, when he taught in the 50s, there was still prayer in school.
I believe it.
Yep. I mean, it was just a thing.
Just what it was.
That's when under God was not in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what do you got?
Right.
Question number 3.
Number 3, and probably the last one.
What's the score?
You're one zippy.
1-0. Yes. Okay. So by 1900, 31 states had compulsory school attendance for students from age ages 8 to 14. By what year were all states did they require students to attend elementary school or to complete elementary
What
school?
year was that?
1900. 31 states had some sort of compulsory education.
By what year?
By what year?
1948.
1948?
I'm going to say 1968.
Oh, man, 1918.
Oh, geez.
For elementary school.
Mr. Crable's close.
Come on, man. I'm thinking about all those like Depression era kids running around. They weren't in school.
I was thinking about the South. You
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Didn't I insult Louisiana earlier?
Yeah, we already cut out several
Earlier
states.
season 1. Woo. Okay, all right, go ahead.
That's it.
Okay,
That's it. I said I had
that ended. You spent literally 10 minutes trying to queue up
I
that
did.
quiz
It took
show.
a while.
All right, well, once again, I guess it was a tie because you were closer on that, so it was 1-1.
Nah, thanks for throwing me a bone.
All right, boys, what do you have going on in your educational careers right now before we sign off? Anything big other than our going on tour to
A road show.
to
Yeah.
the PTA, Maryland
Yeah.
PTA Diversity Conference?
I applied for New York City Chancellorship.
Good, okay.
And
You get an interview or?
can you?
I didn't even know that was vacant. Is that vacant?
What? No.
DC is.
Yeah.
DC is.
They didn't call me back.
Okay, all right. Mr. Krabs?
No, I'm mostly just looking forward to like the weather being good, and then going outside to PE classes and be like, "Hey, what are you guys doing out here?"
Let me observe you.
Just to get like 5 minutes of sun.
Shoot some baskets.
Yeah, just for like 5 minutes.
That's
you know.
good. All right. All right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us for episode 17 of Ed's Not Dead. Do not miss our special 2-part interview coming up with Carol Ann Tomlinson. You can find it on Twitter. Mr. Siddons and myself and Mr. Graves, we will be tweeting about it this week. You can find me at R.W. Dodd, Mr. Crable at Peter Crable, and at Mr. Siddons at C.H. Siddons. Spread the word about Ed's Not Dead. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Say bye, boys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.